Street after earning a degree in psychology. His specialty was so-called penny stocks.
So she was a bright person too.
Yeah, they were. But he started specializing, and his parents, Madoff's parents, tried an investment group or tried to become investors early on. So he had some background in it, but it didn't really mean much to him until he got out of college. Anyway, the so-called penny stocks, those are the ones that are really, really low-priced ones that you can, literally you can buy for pennies, hoping that the company's going to strike it rich and stuff like that. They were traded over the counter, and that was actually a predecessor to the NASDAQ exchange. The NASDAQ is like the New York Stock Exchange. It's another one that monitors things. He actually worked his way through that and became so good at it and so respected. He was actually named director of the NASDAQ for 3 different terms. So this is not a guy who didn't have like a little bit of a pedigree,
right?
And didn't have some smarts and know what was going on with investing and stuff like that. Well, he started cultivating very close relationships with wealthy and influential businessmen in New York and in Palm Beach, Florida. Signed them as investors, paid them handsome returns, used their positive recommendations to attract more investors. But he was really smart. He worked with the financial regulators. He tried to keep everything as transparent as possible. He filed things that he was supposed to file.
Yeah.
He did not get greedy per se.
Step 1, build a rapport.
Yeah. And he exploited an era of exclusivity, attracting serious moneyed investors. Not everybody was accepted. He wouldn't just take anybody's money. He became very exclusive. People wanted to become Madoff.
But that helps.
Please let me give you my money. Please,
exactly.
I want to give you my money.
Yeah, it became a market prestige. Hey, I invest with Madoff.
Right. Even a guy with that name, I would not want to give my money to. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's Madoff.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Oh.
So anyway, that's how he started things up in the
That's
early
like
80s.
answering your phone from Mr. Scam Likely.
Yeah.
And there were legitimate things that were going on, but there was also he was starting to put things into a separate fund as well. So again, they've not been able to figure out exactly when all this started, but because he did not get greedy, because he did not push to get every dollar he could right away. I mean, this got started in the early 80s, and again, it was 2008 before he was finally busted out. He set up his portfolios to look like he was matching the returns of the S&P 500. And if you don't know, the S&P 500, it's a stock market index that tracks the stocks of the 500 largest U.S. companies, and it represents their performance by reporting risk and returns. So basically, it's like an indicator of what the stock market should be doing.
Right.
For instance, over the last 10 years, the S&P 500 has returned about 11% per year. Now, which sounds pretty good, and that's pretty much what Madoff was doing. He was guaranteeing almost a 10% thing. But if we look at over the last 10 years, and I printed this out, there has been an average of 11%, but in 2018 it was down 6%. Last year it was up 28%. So you're not getting a straight across the board 11%.
It's a roller coaster.
And back when he got this started, there was a bit more of a roller coaster going on. And yet, even on down years, he was showing 10% gains. And it was starting to attract a little bit of attention from people because there were people trying to replicate what he was saying he was doing, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
But they even took this to the regulators, and the regulators said, no, we've checked him out. He's fine. So he was actually, he got further and further with this because he wasn't being greedy, because he wasn't giving out the 30% per year.
Right.
And this was all planned. Like, this wasn't like a thing where like I want to get out of this now, but I'm gonna keep going, and this is all part of the grand scheme.
No, it was all part of his grand scheme. He stayed under the radar by doing everything low key.
This guy's like the emperor.
He stayed off the grid by keeping his paperwork up to date and consistent. One of the biggest things with Ponzi schemes is people can't get their money back. He had no problem with people getting money back, but he was very good at convincing them. Now, why would you want to touch your money when you're getting 10% per year?
Right.
Or whatever. It's like, you're better off leaving it.
Right.
That all worked really well until 2008, and the stock market just absolutely tanked. Going back to that S&P 500, down 38.49%.
Yeah.
People started saying,
Panicking.
we'd feel a little better if our money was in our hands.
Right.
And that's when he started borrowing, trying to pay off, and it was just not going to happen. So he went to his sons and said, we got a problem. I've been doing this. There is no money. And like I said, they turned him in, and he was arrested and went to jail. So his was by far the biggest of the Ponzi schemes. But I was looking around Mental Floss, and you said you like schemes. Mental Floss had a list of a bunch of different ones, and a couple of these I thought were pretty interesting.
Like grand schemes? Like big
Like
time?
Ponzi type schemes.
He's over there
Ponzi schemes.
clicking his fingers
Yeah.
together.
Yes. I thought about this. It might be interesting to do a segment on like everyday like small cons.
Oh, that would be interesting for sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a couple that maybe you can still get in on. And it seems like the religious were terribly gullible, with their pastors. Mid 1990s, a pastor by the name of Gerald Payne, he urged the spiritually minded to invest in his greater ministries, which promised he would double investors' money in 17 months. By the way,
red flag.
Yeah,
red flag.
Always a red flag.
But he was going to be trading in precious metals, gems, foreign currencies. The congregation heard his call, and some 18,000 people supplied him and his wife with at least $20 million.
I'm going to have gems and smoothies and calling cards.
There you go. And you know how he got away with it? He would cash these checks under $10,000. He would stay under the IRS's radar for a while.
Oh.
He was exposed in 2001. He was convicted, and he got 27 years in prison.
Oh.
Another.
Where's your calling cards now?
Another godly grifter's name was Gary Gauthier. He hosted Tampa's radio show It's God's Money, which he used to evangelize the impressive returns true believers could get by spending their money on Florida real estate projects, because that can't go wrong. He was arrested in 2014 for bilking 38 faithful Floridans for some $6 million.
Ooh.
This is one of my favorites. It's a sort of a variant of the Ponzi scheme, but a guy by the name of Arian Galbraith targeted highly religious groups in Canada, including the Amish and the Mennonites, with a scheme in which they would pay to raise pigeons, which were then sold for pigeon racing, enjoying lucrative turns on the buybacks. You could get up to $500 per pair of pigeons.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
The folks he gave
how do you swindle Amish people? They don't even use money.
Here's how. He would often conduct his interviews in overalls and compared himself to Steve Jobs. He pulled in $42 million in 4 years before he was exposed.
Wow.
With pigeons.
Yep.
That is impressive.
That's pigeon trade.
That is
trade.
also my favorite one, I guarantee you.
Well, I don't know. This one might not be too bad. This is the last one I'm going to give you. It's called...
These are doves.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name. He was from China. And it was quite the get-rich-quick scheme. In 1999, he founded the Yishin Tiaxi Group, which provided farmers with a box of special ants in exchange for about $1,500. The farmers were supposed to spritz the ants with honey and sugar solution daily. After 74 days, the ants would be picked up and ground into an aphrodisiac, providing the farmers with more than 30% returns.
Oh, my goodness.
Unlike a number of schemers who never actually created products they claimed to, the ant-aphrodisiacs were sold in some 80,000 pharmacies across China before a thing that was exposed as bogus.
Wow. Oh, my God.
So that's pretty much
crazy.
That on those.
Could you ever wonder, like, at some point someone's going to be like, oh, so these are ants. And then you grind them up with honey, you can sprinkle them, and they make your... It's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at some point, like all these, even these, like, candid, like the carbonaro stuff, like at some point people would just be like, there's what? No.
Yeah.
Like, how could that possibly work? Like, someone, I guess it happens though. I mean, obviously it happens, but it's wild.
Yeah, there's lastly there's like four red flag things that you should look for when you're talking to people about investing your money. Unclear business models. So don't get distracted with big numbers, hoping you don't notice that the business doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Aggressive sales techniques, the ones who are pushing you to sign up,
right?
Instead of just letting you look at their results.
Yeah, if they're pressuring you to do something right now, they want to get out.
Yeah. Promises of high returns for no work. The easy money schemes rarely are, and then the difficulty with withdrawing funds. Which is where Madoff was smart. He made it easy for people to get their money back, and he'd never discourage anybody from doing it. He just reminded them what a better idea it would be to leave it, so enough people left it in to where it would work.
Right.
But generally, a Ponzi scheme will discourage its investors from withdrawing because obviously there's probably not enough money there, and they know that they're going to go earlier.
They can't. Yeah. They already used it to buy that jet.
I'm sure he bought quite a few things actually.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. It's so wild.
That is.
Oh, and by the way, he had some list of interesting people, celebrities who had actually invested in him.
What?
Yeah, there were some really big names. Steven Spielberg, Kevin Bacon and his wife, Sandy Koufax, the Hall of Fame pitcher for the Dodgers.
Wow.
Zsa Zsa Gabor lost about 10 million. Jeffrey Katzenberg, you know that name? The guy who headed DreamWorks and produced the Shrek films.
Wow.
Lost undisclosed amount in millions. John Malkovich said he was financially ruined by this.
Really?
Yeah, those are some of the guys. Yeah, he
Wow.
He hit the Jewish community hard. He hit the entertainment.
Those are
industry
rich
pretty hard.
people. Like,
The New York Mets owner, I believe, was also pretty well slammed.
how are you investing that much money that it can ruin you? Like, that seems a little reckless.
Faith.
Get rich quick, man.
That seems a little right. He was already rich.
Right, but the thing is that it's kind of like what we talked about with the settlers
Greed.
with Tecumseh. It's greed, yeah. You got some, you want more.
Mm-hmm.
Then all these
It's easier
athletes.
for us who don't have a whole lot to look at people going like, well, how much more do you need? But I think no matter how much money you have, you try to figure out ways to make more. And,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, I think I'd be smart enough if I had millions of dollars. I would only risk like a couple percent of that because it's going to be something substantial if it works out anyway. But
I actually have something that you might like. They're magic beans.
oh, he's getting ahead to the fairy tales.
okay, well, I'll risk.
If you put it in water in 1 week, it'll turn into $350 million.
Okay, well, I'm only willing to risk like 2% of my riches, so
Okay,
I got like $1.
You're poor.
I'm very poor right now.
You might be one of the more poor people in the world. $13? that you
Well,
said?
no, I have assets.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So moving on, Don.
Sounds good. I'm stuck.
Yes, you are.
And I'm going to talk about a little bit about an important invention in the history of the world.
Whoa.
Wow.
The wheel.
Yeah. Are you talking about the wheel?
It is not the wheel.
Ooh.
So close.
Donuts.
It's not donuts.
Still a wheel.
Still. Well, it said close. I went for it.
What else you got?
Pizza.
That's not pizza. That's not it.
Circular.
Sliced bread.
No, it's an important invention.
Sliced bread.
Is it bigger than sliced bread?
It's a toaster.
No.
It's brilliant.
No. You guys are on the wrong track. All right, so I will just divulge. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the printing press.
Oh, okay.
How it came about. And do you know where the first one came from? Any ideas?
I want to say China, but I don't know why.
Because everything's made in China, Jeff. And
That's it.
You are correct.
That's good logic.
The first press is basically unknown who designed it, but there was a lot of activity during the Tang Dynasty in China. Printed text there can be dated back to 868 AD, so pretty early on. And according to History.com, the oldest known printed book is called the Diamond Sutra. It's a Buddhist book from Dunhuang, China. So, yeah, 868 is when we have this is when we think the first one was created. The Diamond Sutra was brief and very popular Buddhist text, widely used in East Asia, and perhaps best known of the 18 smaller wisdom texts that together are known as the what we would say is the perfection of wisdom. I don't know how to say that word. It's like 30 letters.
But the Diamond Sutra is the book about how diamonds have sex, right?
No.
And other small diamonds.
No. You know what? It says it takes the form of dialogue in the presence of company of monks between Buddha as teacher and disciple as questioner. I don't really know what the heck it was about. I tried to figure out, it didn't make any sense to me. It's just past context for me, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so the first form was pretty basic. What they did, from the very start, they used block printing, which utilized little panels. They actually had to hand carve each block in reverse to make the thing, and they could only use it once. So every time they printed a letter, they had to make a block out of wood with a reverse character on it, for them, and they could only use it 1 or 2 times.
Oh man.
So
It was easier to write.
very, yeah. right? I mean, this was just to make it look nicer, probably.
They
So
had handwriting like